So Poddies, today I'm bringing one of my favourite people back onto the podcast for the third time, which I'm very, very excited about. And obviously it's always risky when you bring guests into your world. And it's funny because a lot of people are forever saying to me, Jess, why do you bring so many guests on? Like, your audience could go and they could go and follow those people and they could go and buy from those people and not buy from you. And it's completely true. It's completely true. And if you're in the beginning phases of your business and you are trying to focus on building your audience, then it's not bringing guests onto something that you own is not a great audience building strategy, right? Because it's going to give your existing audience other people to go and follow and buy from. However, the guests that I bring on my show, I'm incredibly lucky to have on. They're all experts in their respective fields. And this particular guest today, the amazing Heather Gray, has been part of my world and a good friend of mine for almost 3 years now. So if you haven't heard an episode with me and Heather before on the podcast, then lucky you, you're gonna love today. And I'm gonna give you a little bit of the history into how Heather and I met, because I think when you hear the episode with Heather, you'll hear all of the years of friendship that have come to the fore for this particular episode. So Heather and I met about 3.5 years ago now in another Facebook group that we both happened to be in at the time. She was great in there. She was answering questions all the time. She was giving a ton of value. And she had these incredible thoughts and these conversations inside of her head. And they would come out sometimes when she was answering these questions. And she was also doing all this phenomenal stuff. She was building an audience at that point in time. She just had an article on Goalcast with over 1 million views. And so outwardly, she looked like she was building the very best business for her. Fast forward a few months and I launched my cash creation course. And this was the first round of cash creation, right? So back in the day when I first ever launched it, and Heather was one of the first people to approach me about cash creation and ask whether or not it was right for her. And she was really honest with me, and she tells the story a lot. And she said, look, I'm at a point in my business where I've got tons of people looking at my stuff, but nobody is buying it. And so she built this audience of people who followed her articles, who were reading her stuff, consuming her amazing content, but they weren't converting into sales. And so she joined Cash Creation and she spent, 6 weeks starting to filter through that audience, because part of cash creation is ultimately clarity, and clarity on what you need to do next and what you need to be focusing on, and of course cash generation. And the perhaps unexpected thing that came up during Heather's experience in cash creation was that her audience was mainly baby birds, and we're talking, her entire audience was made up of people who didn't want to invest, who weren't ready to go ahead and take the leap. And that's a really unusual situation. It's a really unusual situation for me to see. It's something I see super, super rarely. And it's also a really rare situation for people to actually be in. But anyway, Heather was one of those people. And so throughout the 6 weeks in cash creation, she worked her backside off. She got tons of people who unsubscribed from her because she started selling. She really nailed what her niche was going to be. And she didn't actually make any money during the cash creation process. And again, that was super, super rare for me. However, 3 months after cash creation had finished, Heather and I had stayed in touch. And she said 3 months later, she'd had her best month ever. And the work that she put in during cash creation had gone on to spiral her into this mindset master, but also a sales machine. And so she'd been going out there, she'd been doing the work daily for 3 months, and she had her best month ever. And since then, she's gone on to create this amazing business. So 3 years later, she's gone on to create this amazing business. She's worked with some of the very best people in our industry. She gives practical mindset advice that is just phenomenal. And of course, she has continued to use these incredible cash creation strategies for the last 3 years. And, we've Voxed pretty much daily and have done for the last 3 years. We're incredibly good friends, and we've got some industry issues that we talk about regularly. We talk about how we can change them. We talk about how we can subvert the industry. And that's what you're going to hear today in our conversation. So today we've kind of opened the doors to our daily Voxer chat. and we're giving you a behind the scenes preview of what it's really like to be on Voxer with Jess and Heather, talking about the integrity of our industry, talking about the kinds of conversations that we should be having, the due diligence that we need to be doing as consumers, but also what really defines and helps us become truly successful. So here you go. Here is the episode with the mindset master and the sales expert. I really hope you enjoy our behind the scenes conversation. Okay, Poddies, how excited are you? I am obviously super excited, but please join me in welcoming the amazing Heather Gray to the show. Welcome.
Hello, Jess. I think I'm a three-peat. This is my third time on the show. I don't know if I'm your first three-peat, but thanks for not being sick of me yet and being willing to have another elevated conversation. I'm psyched to be on the show.
You are our hat trick, as we would say in the UK, because
yes, I love it. It's as close to a hat trick as I'll ever get because I don't have an athletic bone in my body. Thank you so much.
I keep telling you, come visit. We can just watch them, and that's fine.
I know.
No, seriously,
I'm a good audience member. Yes,
yeah, exactly. But no, I'm really jazzed to have you back. It's going to be an exciting day. So to give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes, I'm meeting with Heather today to record this, and it's been the day from all days. So, you know, there have been emergency appointments and we've pushed it back, and then we had a chat about my day being my day, and now we're talking about something that's actually interesting. So I'm really, really excited to dig in to the juicy topic of internet marketing versus selling versus delivery versus the mindset of all of that. So I'm excited to dive into this with you. I think we've both been on an anti-internet marketer kind of theme for the last couple of years. And if you've listened to any other podcast episodes with Heather and I, you know, you'll know that. If you haven't, go back and listen. They were great. I say that humbly. But we've both been on this kind of curve that is anti-internet marketer, anti-cookie cutter. We've run a course together called Taking the BS Out of Business. I guess where we start today is, why do we feel so strongly? And obviously I'm going to let you answer for you and I'll answer for me. But why do we feel so strongly about this internet marketer culture that's kind of been created?
Well, I'm going to jump in and say that, like, my first thought about it is because I think that we were trained, you were on the online space a couple of years before me, but we were really trained to this model of showing up online and introducing people to us so we would build the know, like, and trust factor and be super helpful and give away all of our best content for free. And at the end of the day, what we both came to see is no one's teaching anybody how to be business owners. All they're doing is teaching you how to look nice on social media and how to be really likable. And I think that both of us in our respective businesses have been working really hard to elevate the conversation, to really talk about the difference between making money online versus actually owning a business. Because a lot of the people who are filling up the news feeds and filling up the scroll roll, they all look and sound the same. They all are sort of saying the same thing, and they're making themselves look the same because everybody wants to have this unified, picture perfect, pretty Instagram feed. So it's like, this is going to be my permanent filter, and I am going to show up the same way for you every day. And then we have the fourth prong of the fork where it's like people are saying, be provocative, say the thing you're afraid to say, be unlikable. But none of the people who are preaching about being willing to be unlikable are actually saying unlikable things. So when we put that all together, it just ends up being a lot of BS and not actually like helping business owners move the needle in their business.
So I think that's so interesting. I love what you said about nobody's saying the things that are unlikable. Like, they're all like, oh my God, go out there, say something provocative. And what always makes me laugh is that people now think that the F-bomb is provocative. I'm like, I've been saying that since I was like 12, you know. I hope my mum doesn't listen to this, but seriously, everyone's done it. You've stubbed a toe, you've dropped the F-bomb, and oh my goodness, life hasn't ended. And I think it's become, I don't know, for me, we've gone through generations. And when I started out, I remember Marie Forleo was on the scene, and I love Marie Forleo. I really do. She has great hair. she built an awesome business. She's one of the first people that braved video, and you know, I just really like her business model. But she broke out into this world, and then suddenly everyone was like, oh, I have to have a website like Marie Forleo. So we did that for a couple of years. We had everyone look picture perfect, and they all had the wavy hair and the, you know, the great video setups and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, that faded out for a little bit. And then we had the luxury lifestyle crew, and they all rocked in on their first class planes. And, you know, a lot of them actually had no prior business experience other than, I'm an influencer. Like, I'm on Instagram and I've got these great pictures and I'm living my first class life, but they don't know anything about operations or profit and loss. And they can't tell you, you know, what their CPA does or anything like that. And so you had that generation. That was really popular for a while. And everyone wanted to go on holiday and they wanted to do laptop lifestyle and sand on the beach and all this kind of stuff. And then now we're in the rebel phase. Can we call it the rebel phase, where everyone's like, yes, oh my goodness, you know, I use an expletive and I'm the cool kid. And it's the equivalent to smoking behind the bike sheds. Again, I've never done that, actually. Not smoking behind the bike sheds, although I did have a nice habit in corporate of waving a menthol cigarette around like I was kind of cool. Never smoking it, just waving for the effect.
That same puffed up image of making us and making our sort of followers and the people who are in our audience feel all puffed up for a second. Like, you too are a badass, and you are a badass, and you are a badass, but not actually having any substance beneath it. And, you know, one of the things that I think happens as a result is, in the moment, someone loves being told that they're fierce as anything, right? And you can substitute anything for a different world, and you're a badass. And that lasts for like 10 minutes. You feel like you're part of the cool kids club, and you feel like you're a part of something, and everyone's gonna like you because they like that other person who uses the F-bomb, and they like that other person who uses the word badass. But at the end of the day, there's no strategy behind it. There's no substance. There's nothing that's gonna create a real sustainable business model off of that. But the other piece to this, and Jess, you know, I didn't talk to you about this before the show started, but, you know, part of this is I'm preaching this because I lived it. When I came on the online scene, you know, a lot of people, I'm a trained therapist. I'm 20 years post-master's degree. I'm heading towards my 15th year of business ownership of various types. And, you know, I moved from brick and mortar to online. And when I came to the online space 3 years ago, people told me not to talk about the fact that I have a clinical degree. People talked to me about the fact that, like, if you say you're a therapist, like, that has like a connotation to it. You just want to be real. You want to show up as you. You want to be approachable. And at the end of the day, like, as a side effect of that, I checked my professionalism at the door. When in reality, one of the things that I am most proud of is I have a freaking degree in this, because anybody can call themselves a coach. And because everybody else was dumbing themselves down, I dumbed myself down. So I've spent the past 2 quarters of my fiscal business year undoing all of that and really owning my expertise and owning who I am, because you can't build a business pretending to be somebody else for any length of time. It gets you that initial shot of visibility, but it doesn't get you anything that lasts.
And that's the interesting thing, because I think, you know, so many people now are seeing online this kind of spate of, that person is really well liked, so they must be doing really well. And you know, you and I both have seen this and have known this and have combated this. And I would even throw it out there as, I wouldn't say I'm a particularly likable person. Not because I'm not a nice person, but because I just don't care. Like, I don't care enough about being liked to be likable. But what we're seeing online is a spate of people who are going, you know, and they're joining people or enrolling people into various cliques. And they're saying, you're the rebel, you're the badass, you're the first class lifestyle person. And it can't work for other people because it's not necessarily working for them, right? Just because you're likable, just because you get a bunch of people commenting on your Facebook post, it doesn't mean that they're making money. And that's the interesting thing for me about the internet marketing world, is that we've become so, I feel like we've got 2 ends of the scale now. One is Perky Sue, and everything is perfect, and you know, there's the Instagram filter on their life almost, and they get all of the likes and all of the comments and all the engagement, but they're not making money behind the scenes. And then you get the people who've gone the other way, the negative Nelly, who will spout everything bad that's ever happened to them on Facebook. And they will, again, they'll get all of the hearts and the engagement and the this and that. But again, behind the scenes, not making a ton of money. And for me, the frustration and, the frustration of the internet marketers has come from the fact that everybody's learning how to build businesses from people who don't necessarily have businesses, but who are likable or who are engagement worthy. And so people are following them and using their rules as writ, when that person may know the theory behind selling something. That person may know the theory behind how to make you feel good every day. But if they haven't actually trained in it, they're not qualified to teach it, they're not qualified to troubleshoot it, you're taking advice from somebody who has literally, in effect, looked at a car one day and said, oh yeah, I could drive that.
Exactly. And I think that part of it is that it's not teaching the strategy underneath it. So, you said the other day on your own Instagram feed, like, has your last business coach taught you about your KPIs? And I thought to myself, I wonder how many people had to look that up. And I wonder how people even think about like cost per acquisition. And when they're told that they have to go on Instagram story and do an Instagram story 3 times a week, and then they have to have this, and then they have to be in Facebook, and have they really thought about all of the time they're spending to get a cold lead, to become a warm lead, to become a customer? Are they even paying attention? Or do they just keep showing up without paying attention to how many dollars each hour is worth that they're spending doing this?
And that's the juicy bit, because I think it's so interesting when we talk about strategy. The strategy at the moment in the online space seems to be just sell more. Now, as a sales coach, I'm loving this, just as an FYI, I'm loving part of this. I love the bit that is sell more, because everyone should be selling every single day. The bit that I don't love, though, is that you can't combat a profit problem in your business simply by selling more. You can't combat an outsourcing issue in your business by selling more. You can't combat operational problems. And I know that we don't always like to talk about problems, but they are inevitable in your business. Things are going to happen. The roller coaster is going to hit, and we just kind of have to deal with that. And that's much easier when you actually understand, okay, well, it takes me 10 sales calls to get a conversion, and that conversion is worth between 3 and 5K. So this month, I'm going to do 50 sales calls and I'm going to get 5 clients, to the person who goes, oh, do you know what I'd really love to do this week? I just feel like it would be super authentic for me to just not show up, right?
Exactly.
That to me is not strategy, because nobody wants to do stuff, and I want to dig into this with you, because I know that you've got some epic bombs on this. But some days I wake up and I wish I had a job. Like, some days I wake up and I'm like, for someone else to tell me what to do today, wouldn't that be great? Like, wouldn't that be awesome? And some days I wake up and I go, oh my God, I can't wait to get started on my task list today. And other days I wake up and I go, oh, my to-do list, not happening. You're not always going to want to do the stuff that you are required to do to have a business. And so when we talk about ease and flow, that's not about giving up on strategy and just doing whatever the heck you want on any given day of the week. It's all about mapping out, okay, if I don't want to work today and I know that my average sales call, my average of sales calls to get a client is 10, am I prepared to do those 10 tomorrow and make it happen then? Because as a business owner, that's how you've got to be. And I think it's that mental game that people just don't realize.
Well, and I think that part of it too is that in an age where everybody's telling you to build a business you love and just show up as you are and be authentic, and you can work in your pajamas full time and this, that, and the other thing, that people aren't also saying, but at any given point as a business owner, you're going to have to do something you don't want to do. You are going to have to do something that feels uncomfortable. You are going to make a mistake. You're going to make a misstep, and you're going to have a do-over. So then what ends up happening is people end up hitting these roadblocks that just come as a normal part of business ownership, but then they think they have a mindset problem. They think something's wrong with them because nobody else is getting stuck on this. Nobody else is having a bad day where they don't feel like doing something. So therefore, they must be taking a step back in business, because it's not a normal part of the business discussion to say, hey, by the way, like, your taxes are going to be due, and you're going to have to do your quarterly taxes, and you're going to have to look at the numbers, and you're going to, your accountant is going to want to say, what's your projection? I just went through this myself. My accountant asked me, what's your projection for the end of 2019? And I was lucky that I had been asked that question before because I had the answer ready. But how many times do business owners go like, what do you mean I'm supposed to be able to project 9 more months ahead? I'm only in Q1 right now. I have time to figure that out. Rather than recognize that we want to teach business owners how to be in this for the long game, how to create something that's lasting, how to be a part of something that's a marathon versus a sprint or a race, and that just sell something, just put something out there, just be impulsive, I think creates this reactive, fragmented way that we sort of consume other people's content. And so as people who are receiving this content, we create a reactiveness in us. So then suddenly it's like, oh, this person's telling me I have this problem, I have to do this, or this person's telling me I have this problem, I have to do that, versus like, let me look at my own business, let me look at my own numbers, and let me see what it is, the problem I actually have. You know, it's just to make this, you know, sort of concrete a little bit. I was watching somebody on social media the other day who has been teaching me for weeks and weeks about Pinterest, because I've been wondering about Pinterest and I don't know if it's my thing. So I've been learning about it. Randomly in the middle of the feed, she goes, I've been getting a lot of questions about my makeup. Would you like me to start talking about makeup? And I'm like,
no.
Yeah, no. Actually, I don't want to. If I want to learn about makeup, I'll go on Pinterest and do a search for makeup.
And I'll probably find you anyway.
But it's this reactivity of like, ooh, I'm suddenly getting all this attention for this other thing. Maybe I could become a makeup affiliate and I could get like, it's like what the actual, but that's, I think, what this industry has started to build for us is this idea that it creates reactions out of us. And then we get impulsive and we respond rather than really looking at like, what is the business model? What is it that we're doing? And what is the best way to represent that for the people we want to find us? Not the way everyone else is doing it, not the way we think we want to do it because it's super comfortable for us, but simply like what makes sense for the goals we have. And that's not the conversation people are having.
And it's interesting because like you've just said about reactivity, you become reactive in terms of the content you consume, but you also become reactive as a seller, and that doesn't work either. Because when you're running a business, if you try and run it in a reactive way, you're always having to chase the next thing. And I see this a lot with people who say, I've got to sell something new. And they're like, give me something new, Jess. What can I sell now? What should I be doing? And I'm like, well, what did you do last month? And what did you do the month before? And people get bored, right? They're like, I don't want to sell what I sold last quarter. I don't want to sell what I sold last year. But if we look at, you know, the most successful programs historically that I sell, all of them are over a year old. All of them are probably over 2 years old now. Like Cash Creation is now what, 2.5 years old. And we've done 9 rounds of that. And it's one of the most successful programs that I run because it's tried and tested. It's not reactive. I know it's a problem people are always going to have in my market. So you've really got to start looking at how you can be less reactive and how you can actually improve your delivery. Because again, the best programs, and I know that we'll sit there and we've all said it about somebody's affiliate program. So, you know, don't kid yourselves. We've all sat there and seen an ad and go, oh God, so-and-so's launched their program again. It doesn't even work, but they'll enroll another 3,000 people into it. We've all been there, right? But the thing is, for some people, that stuff does work. Like, I can't knock it. You know, doesn't matter how many times I get frustrated by the fact that a bunch of people do it and it doesn't work for them. It does actually work for some people, and it's been tried and tested and proven and tried and tested and proven again and again and again, because those people have improved the way that they deliver it. The downside is that in improving the way they deliver it for themselves, they've actually done it at detriment of their customers. And that's the thing. So when we typically see the first round of something and the 10th round of something, they look different and the experience isn't always the same. And that can be a big factor in why it doesn't get the same results, you know, and that's always interesting to watch and to start thinking about. Like when you're marketing your own stuff, you have to think, am I marketing the same experience that gives people the same ability to achieve as I was last month? And if I'm not, why not? Am I improving it, or am I doing it at the detriment of somebody else's success?
And my observation with that, Jess, is that a lot of people are struggling with that as business owners because they are looking at the next thing when they have the current people in front of them.
Yes.
So they just did this launch. They just launched this course. They got 12 to 17 to 20 people in it. They're running it. It's successful. They got the numbers and they're already looking at what they're going to do next. And so they're not really focused on the delivery of who's in front of them and what they're selling and whether or not it measures up to what they sold them, because they're so focused on, well, what am I going to sell next and what am I going to do next, rather than, you and I were just talking before the call about cash creation and how that course has evolved and how it started out as a live round that also included Voxer for people who wanted the VIP access to you, to now that it's largely a self-directed course with, complimentary coaching every other week. It used to be like full-on coaching weekly. And what we've noticed is that the more you've evolved it and streamlined it and directed it, you have created something that is actually set up for success to be evergreen. Because you didn't just decide for yourself, I'm going to create an evergreen product. You fine-tuned it. You looked at the issues. Like the first round you didn't have mindset as part of it. You were just focusing on the sales strategy. And then when everyone was on every single call crying their eyes out, you're like, this doesn't work without mindset. So you and I hooked up and we started running it together, and you invested in my consultation for your students in your course. And then we got it set up with all the trainings, all the added material. Now it's set up for evergreen, to really set students up for success, not to set you as the entrepreneur up for success. You as the entrepreneur get set up for success as an incidental, as the natural consequence of doing all the hard work at the beginning, which I think is, a testament to the way you run your business.
And this is the thing, I think it's interesting because as entrepreneurs, we have two kind of hats that we have to look at, and two kind of roles. One is we have to be the business owner, and we are directly responsible for the impact that our business makes and the income that our business makes, and any other things that we choose to support through that. I have a team, so I have to make sure that they're paid. I have to make sure that everybody is happy and developed and all that kind of stuff. But the other role we have is to deliver to our clients. And I think what's become really prevalent over the last few years has become market the crap out of your course and sell it and be awesome at selling it. And then don't really worry that much about the delivery. Everyone's so desperate to be this big business owner and make the big money that they do it in the wrong way. They have one big launch. They have like a massive 100K, 150K launch, and then they can't replicate it because they push 100 people through a course that doesn't work, that wasn't tested, that, isn't right, doesn't meet the need. And they go, oh, why can't I find 150 more people to pay me that money?
I was just talking to Katie Momo about this. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's a copywriter and she does sales work too. And she has a smart, oh gosh, I wish I knew the name of her show up yet. Smash Hit Sales, I think, is her podcast. And she said that people are getting entirely too complacent with non-results.
Yeah.
The idea that we are accepting as consumers that we're going to purchase a course for several $1,000s and not get results, or invest in a business coach and not get results, that there's a complacency to that, rather than sort of accepting as, consumers, that we have a responsibility to stand up for ourselves and our investments, and as business owners to make sure we're selling a quality product, because that's what's going to last time. Because it's the difference, I think, between one successful launch and 15 successful launches. Like, anyone can sell crap one time, but at some point in time, it becomes known that it's crap and you're not going to sell as much, rather than ensuring that you're delivering something that's quality. So everyone who consumes your content knows that it's quality and starts telling their friends that you need it. That, I think, is the difference between the face we put on for other people and the way we sort of own integrity within our own products, our services, and our sphere of the way we operate.
100%. And I think, part of the way as consumers that we can stand up is, one, by actually looking at, do we need this and do we need it now? Like, is it right for me for where I am in the stage of business? And the second piece is, when you've bought the thing, do the work. Like, I am the most vocal person I know. Well, no, that's not true because I know you. I know Heather and I know a bunch of other people who are very vocal on this, but I'm incredibly vocal about the fact that internet marketers are the first people to sell you stuff, and they may not always be the best at delivering it. But I've also seen the other side of that coin, having sold an awful lot of courses. Literally over 3,000 logins have been created to my courses in the last 5 years. And I've seen a number of people who were hell-bent on, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get results, who've never logged in. Like, just never logged in. And I've followed up with people and I've been like, hey, what's going on with you? And how are things? And I'm checking in. And you said you were going to submit this thing and it hasn't happened. And they're like, oh, no. So for all the internet marketers out there, there are also consumers who promise themselves that they're going to do the work and who don't. They don't make the time and they don't put the effort and energy in. So make sure that you're not a consumer. Make sure you are an implementer, because that's really important. Buying the course or buying the one-to-one coaching, that's not going to do anything for you unless you do something with it. And I think, we've run multiple rounds of cash creation. I think one of the most brilliant people I think that's come out of that is a lady called Anne Gage. She hasn't been on the podcast, but she is a phenomenal business owner. She has a business where she helps horse riders who are not confident, develop a better partnership with their horses, get back in the saddle, and ride safely. And I think she was on not the last round, the one before. So a couple of rounds ago.
2 rounds ago, because and then I think she did Business Builders with us too.
She did, taking the BS out of business. So Anne came on 2 rounds ago into cash creation, and she had a rocky start. Like, it's fair to say, I'm not going to share her journey. It's none of anyone's business, but she had a rocky start, and her catchphrase throughout cash creation became, I won't die. I can do this and I won't die. And she ended up acing it and doing incredibly well. And she's since gone in, she's done other courses with us. She's currently a member of my private membership, the Dotties, and she's phenomenal. And even now, she's like, I can do it and I won't die. And that's how she approaches everything. She gives everything the biggest try, and it set her up so well for success that she's now reaping the rewards. She just had like her best quarter ever, which is phenomenal work. And I think that, not enough people do that. We're so ingrained and entrenched now into buy the program, react to the fact that somebody's got something new, that we don't actually consider, is this program going to work for me? Am I at the right stage of business? Do I actually have the time to implement it? And if those things are a no, just don't do it.
Yes. And I think that part of it is, if we can become more responsible consumers, we then automatically become more responsible business owners, because we want to replicate a good experience for the people who are investing on us and the people who are choosing to buy from us and the people who are choosing to get to know us. Rather than, I think what ends up happening is, I just want to see if this is going to work, or I don't really know about this, or, I think the other piece that happens, and I've observed this in a lot of the different groups that I've done consultations for, is that people get attracted to being around other people who are doing big things to the point where they convince themselves that there's someone who does big things, even though all they're doing is talking about big things. And they haven't actually put themselves out there. They haven't actually asked for the sale or gotten uncomfortable or created the product or service. They just have conversations with other people who are doing this without actually ever showing up for themselves, the businesses they want, and the services that they want to put out there, because they think they're in the club already without actually having done the work.
And I think there's a phrase that I love from you, and I'm pretty sure I've said this on every podcast that you've been on, and some that you haven't. But you always say you have to put the reps in. And I like that, because, I think it's often in this world, unfortunately, that we see a lot of people being successful who haven't put the reps in, and they'll be financially successful fairly quickly. They're great at selling, but they're not great at delivering. And in order to kind of create a culture of business owners who actually reward themselves financially, who aim for huge financial success, which you should be, aim high, because, it's absolutely a great place to be. It absolutely is possible for you, but also deliver high, and really think about, if this person is giving me, £1,000 or £10,000 or whatever it is, how can I really make sure that they're going to have the best experience? And it doesn't mean jam it full of one-on-one coaching and, completely upset your boundaries and take calls from them at 10 o'clock at night. And, if they don't do the work, you go and sit at their house and do it for them. But think about the customer experience you can actually provide. Do you have the qualifications to deliver this experience at the right level? Are you charging enough that actually you're going to deliver a great experience and feel good about it versus resenting that client and therefore giving them a crappy experience inadvertently? Do you actually want to spend this amount of time on clients? It's those kinds of questions I think we have to start asking ourselves as business owners, and worrying less about oh my goodness, what do I charge? Well, you think about the transformation you're providing, you charge based on that, and then you look at, okay, well, what am I actually going to deliver? What's going to be the delivery point and the capability? And do I need to add more on or take some off?
And I think that part of what you're talking about here, just for transparency purposes, is a business plan.
Yeah.
Is this idea of like, what is my business plan going to be? Am I somebody who's offering group programming? Am I somebody who's doing a membership? Am I offering one-on-one services? And I think one of the things that I've been talking a lot about, in my own communities of, my own audience on my podcast and all of that, is this idea that we can't just as entrepreneurs swallow the Kool-Aid that we're supposed to scale, that we're supposed to stop trading dollars for hours, and we just have to have a group program or a membership or something like that in order to be real business owners. Because what I'm seeing is that one of the main reasons why people are over promising and under delivering is they have no experience in the delivery method they've chosen for their content. So they're choosing group programs, but they've actually never run a group before. So they don't know how to manage a negative Nelly at the same time as positive Polly. And they don't know how to manage conflict within the group. And they don't know how to get people to actually tell them the information they need in order to get good advice on a group call when people are sort of hesitant to share their personal business with other people. So that so much of this is making sure you have chosen a business delivery method that aligns with who you are and how you move through the world. Like this podcast right now is my sweet spot. I always do well off the cuff with audio. I am awful when I am asked to be off the cuff on live video. I hate it. It's too many distractions with people adding in comments, and I get distracted and I end up on these side conversations. So I know that I could deliver really good audio content. If I have to do live, like video content, I'm going to need something that's more outlined. I'm going to need more sort of slideshows or something to keep my topic focused, because that's what's going to set me up for success. But if somebody says, hey, the best way to teach these days is live video, and I forget that I kind of suck on live video, then I am automatically setting myself up to fail. And I think so often we just do what other people tell us to do, or what we think is going to make the fastest buck, or we think is going to be scalable, or this, that, and the other thing, without actually saying, is this what I'm good at? Is this where I am going to shine? Is this how I am going to knock their socks off? Because so often the reason why there's that disconnect between the promise and the delivery is they've chosen a delivery method that's out of alignment with who they are and where they're rock stars.
100%. And I think that's so interesting, because you can automatically tell the people who have chosen their zone of genius and have focused on it, because they take off, and I know that, we talk about, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, there's no such thing as an overnight success, but you have people who are much more successful than others much quicker when they're focused in on what they're actually good at and just delivering that. And when we see that, we see rock stars. We had in the first round of Cash Creation, we had Sam Barefoot. She came in, she aced Instagram, and she just took it by storm. And, she didn't have a business at that point. She came in, this was her business online. She had completely revamped what she'd been doing previously as a podcast host and, in the health and wellness space. And she came in and she just zoomed, just took off and has done from there. And we've had multiple people like that in multiple programs, because they're focused on what they're good at, not what somebody else tells them that they should be doing. And that's not, it's not the same as when you create your content. It's not the same as showing up authentically and just doing whatever you think you're going to do. It's actually doing a complete analysis of, what is my skill set? What can I really bring to the table? What can I deliver? and get a transformation for somebody in the most efficient and effective way, I'm going to go do that. Because that ultimately is where your sweet spot is going to be. It's going to help you get there so much quicker.
And the skill we're talking about, just to break it down specifically for folks, is we're talking about delaying gratification. Because when we are over promising, it looks and feels kind of sexy. Like, it's like, look at my sleek sales page. Look at the fact that I am on Instagram all the time, and you can find me on Facebook, and it feels really good. But all of that is vanity metrics. And so part of knowing your business model and staying true to you, that is always going to be a little bit quieter. That is always going to be a little less flash and a lot more substance. And so in order to get the kickback from that and the feel good from that, you are not going to get that until you deliver the results. Like, you have, is it Mark Simpson or Sampson? Simpson, right?
From Boostly.
Like he comes in and he joined one of your programs, and he was like, I know that I can up level. I know I'm just going to put my head down. And I didn't see him anywhere on social media. I didn't see him. And all of a sudden the results are speaking for himself, and he has up leveled his business while on paternity leave, and just really knocked it out of the park, because he just knew what he needed for his business, and it was like blinders on. And he did that one thing, and he showed up consistently, and now he's up-leveled his business to absurd levels. That's the difference between someone who's just going for the flash and the quick win of what it feels like to have everybody talking about your new program and being really excited about your countdown meter, to actually delivering something of value and substance. Is you have to be in it for the long game. And that also means not getting the attention and not allowing your ego to run the show. And I think a lot of times that, like, we're, as entrepreneurs, we're isolated. A lot of us work from home and by ourselves. So we want that flashy engagement. We want everybody buzzing about us and talking about us and tagging us, rather than, like, I actually want to be known for delivering quality content. Things that transform people's lives, things that relieve pain and bring on these dramatic transformations. It's like you have to wait to feel good until you deliver. And that can be hard for some of the inexperienced business owners. And some experienced business owners get distracted by all of the other things that I think that sometimes they forget to just take a moment to take it in and allow themselves to feel good.
100%. And that's the thing, guys, it's your responsibility. You get to choose ultimately whether you want to put your blinders on like Mark and get your head down and seriously up level your business and the quality of your delivered content, or you get to choose to go the other route and you get to choose to be the star for a bit. The danger of being the star is that eventually it burns out. Like, you can't just rely on fame to get you through. Otherwise, there are certain actors who I will not name because, legal people don't like that. But there are certain actors around in the 90s for big films who really could not act, who, now nobody knows who they are. Like, also though, millennials, well, it's not even millennials anymore. What are we, like Gen Y or something?
I know, we're getting old, Jess.
Yeah, I'm just like, those people, they weren't even born. They don't know. They're never going to watch those films anyway. But seriously, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate this conversation. I know it's going to pull up a lot for people. So where can they find you? Where's the best place to go and get some more Heather into their lives?
Yes, the best direct path is actually through my podcast, Business Mindset Mastery. I run a daily mindset podcast. I take listener questions in. So the best way to kind of get to know me would be to send in a business question. You can find me at heather@heathergrayconsulting.com. Those of you who know me as a member of Jess's community, that's actually a new URL. I'm putting my name on my business. It's about gosh darn time. So you can find me at heathergrayconsulting.com too, and you'll get all the episodes. We're like 300 episodes in now, and it's a listener-based podcast so long as I get questions in my inbox. So I meet business owners where they're at, and whatever their particular struggle is, they send in their question, and 5 days a week, I am delivering those answers for them. It's been the best thing ever. It's my zone of genius and my sweet spot. And then you can just learn more about me at my site.
I love it. And also, if you haven't checked out Heather's new site yet, you definitely should. Her copy on there is phenomenal. I had a little drool when you showed me on Voxer. I was like, oh, I love it so much. When is it going live? I must share it with everyone. So if you haven't gone and checked that out yet, please make sure you do. Go over to heathergrayconsulting.com. It's very fancy, it's very snazzy, and the copy is great. So make sure you check out the site and you head over to the podcast. And I will see you in Monday's episode.